What if, in the most sacred moment of your life, someone looked at your newborn baby and said he wasn't yours? I was lying there, still swollen with emotion, holding in my arms the miracle I had just brought into this world. Noah. My baby. And then my husband, Jake, walked in, looked at our son, and said something that would change my life forever. We need a DNA test. In that instant, my world shattered. If you think you've experienced betrayal before, wait until you hear this story all the way through. And if you believe every woman deserves the truth, and a chance to start over, hit that like button and subscribe. Because what you're about to hear might just shake you to your core. The hospital room was silent, except for the steady beeping of the heart monitor and the soft murmurs of my newborn resting in my arms. Golden light from the late afternoon sun slipped through thick curtains, painting patterns on the sterile floor. The scent of antiseptic, sweat, and fresh milk lingered in the air, but I barely noticed. All I could see was Noah. That tiny, perfect little being. Eyes shut. Tiny fists curled up under his pink cheeks. He was my whole world. And then Jake walked in. He had that same lazy half-smile on his face. For a second, I thought he was going to say something sweet. Something like, "He has your eyes," or, "Thank you for this gift." But he didn't. He looked at Noah for about 2 seconds. Then he crossed his arms and said, "We need a DNA test." No one moved. Not a single sound. The room froze. My mom, Linda, standing by the window with her phone in hand, stiffened. One of the nurses stopped mid-step. Even Noah, oblivious to the world, seemed to fall into a deeper silence. I laughed. Because what else do you do when the person you love says something that feels completely unreal? "Jake, is that some kind of joke?" But he didn't laugh. He didn't even blink. He just shook his head and said, "He's way too good-looking to be mine. You know that, right?" It felt like all the air had been ripped from my lungs. The entire room dimmed, even though daylight still streamed in. My chest tightened as if something had silently broken inside me. I looked at Noah. Then at the man I had built a life with. And suddenly, I didn't recognize him. "How can you say something like that?" I whispered, my voice shaking. "He's your son, Jake." "I just want to be sure," he shrugged. "That's all. My name is Emily Blake. I'm 38 years old, a high school literature teacher in a quiet suburb of Portland. And until not long ago, I truly believed my life was finally on track. I met Jake at a local coffee shop. He walked in during a storm, a laptop under his arm, with that faraway look of someone who lived mostly inside his own head. He struck up a conversation about the book I was reading, The Color Purple, and before I even realized it, we were planning a second date. Jake said he worked as a remote IT consultant, handling projects online. What he didn't say. I didn't ask. He was kind, charming, always knew the right thing to say. After so many years of loneliness and lukewarm relationships, he felt different. Present. We were married in less than 2 years. My mom, Linda, always said things moved too fast. She noticed how he avoided talking about his past, never mentioned family, didn't seem to have old friends. But back then, I took it as a sign of mystery. Discretion. Emotional maturity. We built a quiet life together. A modest 2-bedroom home, a little garden out back, plans to adopt a dog. He painted the baby's room a soft shade of green, rubbed my belly every night during my pregnancy, and promised me Noah would have everything he never did. But there were cracks, ones I only saw later. Jake avoided talking about his childhood. He said his parents had died when he was a teenager. No siblings. No photos from the past. Not a single family call. He told me he'd cut ties with everything, said the past only held him back. I didn't press. I was in love. Pregnant. Desperate to believe I had finally chosen right. But Noah's birth brought truths no ultrasound could ever show. 2 days after delivery, we went home. Linda insisted on staying with us. Said it was to help, but I knew. She didn't trust him. And for the first time, I began to understand why. Jake acted like everything was normal. He joked with Noah, posted selfies with captions like, "My mini-me has arrived." But when he thought no one was watching, I'd catch him staring at Noah with a strange look. Cold. Analytical. One night, I woke up and noticed he wasn't in bed. I found Jake standing next to the crib, staring down at Noah's face like he was searching for a clue. "Just waiting to see when he starts looking like me," he murmured. A chill ran down my spine. The following week, I got a call from the hospital. A nurse named Hannah said they were doing a routine follow-up and asked for Noah's hospital ID number. When I gave it to her, she paused. Said everything was fine. But something in her voice didn't sit right. Later that night, while sorting through hospital papers, I noticed something off. Noah's ID bracelet had a number 1 digit off from mine. Could have been a typo. But after what Jake said, I couldn't let it go. I spent hours online researching baby ID errors in hospitals. Read horror stories of newborns being switched. Real cases. Real pain. Night after night, I sat up with Noah in one arm and my phone in the other, scrolling through forums, articles, medical reports. I was turning into someone I didn't recognize. But how could I ignore the signs? And then, as if on cue, Jake brought it up again. Found a clinic that does same-day DNA testing, he said over breakfast, like he was talking about rotating the tires. Figured it might give us both some peace of mind. Peace. That's the word he used. But what I felt was the exact opposite. The day of the DNA test arrived under a heavy, gray sky, the kind that makes everything feel heavier than it should. I strapped Noah into his car seat, my hands trembling. Jake whistled softly as he loaded the diaper bag, like we were heading out for a Sunday drive. He was calm. Too calm. At the clinic, everything moved fast. We filled out the paperwork, had our samples collected, and were told the results would be ready in 5 business days. Jake grinned on the way out. "I'm betting he's 80% angel and 20% troublemaker," he joked. But I couldn't even fake a smile. My chest was tightening with every passing minute. And deep down, I knew, this wasn't just about the DNA. That night, I lay awake, pretending to scroll through my phone while Jake slept next to me. I couldn't stop thinking about the ID bracelet, about Hannah's hesitant voice, about the look on Jake's face when he stared at our son like he was trying to solve a puzzle. Something was wrong. Not just with Noah's records, but with Jake himself. The next morning, I left Noah with my mom and went back to the hospital. I told the receptionist I had forgotten a personalized blanket in the maternity ward, a lie, but it got me past the front desk. Walking down that hallway again made my stomach turn. The memories of that delivery room, that moment, that sentence, "We need a DNA test," hit me all over again. When I saw Hannah, the nurse who had called me, she recognized me instantly. "Emily, right? How's the little guy?" "He's okay, but I have a strange question." I told her everything, the bracelet mismatch, the phone call, my growing suspicion. Her face turned pale. "There was a system error," she admitted. For a few minutes, 2 babies were listed under the same ID. We flagged it, but management told us it was resolved before discharge. My knees nearly buckled. "Do you believe that?" She hesitated. I tried to report it again, but I was told not to alarm the family. "I'm sorry." I walked out in a daze. That night, I couldn't look at Jake the same way. He played with Noah, kissed my cheek, scrolled through his phone on the couch like everything was fine. But all I could see was a stranger. After he went to bed, I began searching through his things. Files. Drawers. Documents. And that's when I noticed it, or rather, what wasn't there. No old photos. No childhood memories. No school yearbooks. Nothing with a past. Just perfectly arranged adult paperwork, like it had all been curated. I ran a public background search using his full name and social security number. Nothing came up. I tried again, on a different platform. This time, an error message appeared, invalid or unregistered number. The next morning, I called a friend from college, someone who worked with data verification for a life insurance company. I asked for a favor. She got back to me that same afternoon. Emily, the social security number Jake is using belongs to a man named James K. Evans. He died in a car crash in 2016. I froze. Are you sure? I triple-checked. I'm sorry. Whoever your husband is, that's not his identity. The room started spinning. Jake wasn't Jake. He was living under a stolen identity. The man I married, the father of my child, did not exist. I held Noah tight to my chest, rocking him gently while my hands shook. My mind screamed with 1,000 questions, but the loudest one was this. Who did I bring into my home? The morning after that phone call, I woke up different. Nothing had changed around me, but something inside me had cracked wide open. Jake was in the shower, humming like always. I quietly opened my laptop and began gathering everything: our marriage certificate, the DNA paperwork, hospital forms, screenshots of his invalid social security number. I hid a USB drive inside a sealed diaper pack. My heart pounded the entire time. When Jake left to pick up groceries, I rushed to the nearest police station. I sat in front of an officer and told her everything. From the baby's mismatched ID bracelet, to the fake identity, to the man sleeping in my bed. She took notes in silence. We'll need to launch a formal investigation, she said. This could take weeks, possibly months. I don't have months, I replied, staring at Noah sleeping in his carrier. I have a baby. And a stranger living in my house. She nodded gently. We'll do everything we can to move fast. When I got home, Jake was back, making dinner like nothing was wrong. He handed me a chocolate bar with a wink. Your favorite. Thought you deserved something sweet. That's thoughtful, I replied, smiling with my lips but not my eyes. That night, I slept with my phone under my pillow. Every creak in the hallway made my body tense. Every breath he took beside me felt like a lie. 2 days later, I received an anonymous email. Subject: Aaron Blake. There was a PDF attached, dozens of pages of public records. Arrests for fraud in 3 different states. Outstanding warrants. A history of identity theft. The same birthday. The same fake number Jake had been using. His real name was Aaron James Blake. Jake Evans was a mask. I contacted a lawyer. He confirmed the worst. Legally, you're not married. That man never existed. Your entire life with him was a fabrication. I felt everything and nothing at the same time. Anger. Shame. Grief. Relief. But above all, resolve. I wasn't going to run. I was going to fight. With my lawyer's help, I filed a formal report with the Department of Homeland Security. They confirmed he was already flagged for multiple aliases. And for the first time in months. I slept through the night. But Jake could feel the shift. You've been acting strange, he said one night, while I rocked Noah in the nursery. I'm tired, I said. No. It's something else. I looked him straight in the eyes. You're right. It is. That night, sometime between 2 a.m. and sunrise, he disappeared. He left without a word. No note. No goodbye. Just vanished, like he was never there. Jake, or rather, Aaron Blake, vanished from my life just as abruptly as he had entered it. The next morning, I found his toothbrush still on the sink, half a cup of coffee on the table, and an emptiness in the house that didn't feel peaceful, just unfinished. No note. No closure. Just a ghost who had worn a mask in my home. My mom, Linda, held me for what felt like hours that morning. I sobbed silently with Noah sleeping in my arms. I didn't cry for Aaron. I cried for the version of myself that trusted him. That loved him. That had built a life with someone who wasn't real. For weeks, I did the only thing I could, survive. I fed Noah. Changed diapers. Rocked him to sleep. And held on. During one of those sleepless nights, an old friend from college, Rachel, messaged me. Emily, I read your story. Have you ever thought about writing it down? I almost laughed. Right? About the worst thing that had ever happened to me. But that night, after Noah fell asleep, I opened my laptop. And I began. A sentence. Then a paragraph. Then a full page. I wrote for hours. The words came like tears, slow, raw, unfiltered. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something close to peace. I started a blog called Fragments of the Truth. The first post. How I discovered my husband wasn't who he claimed to be. The second. The day he asked for a DNA test. The third. Why I blamed myself, and why I shouldn't have. Soon, comments started coming in. Women from all over the country. Some who had been deceived, like me. Others who were still living in silence. All of them just, looking for someone to say. Me too. And that's when I realized, I wasn't just a victim. I was a voice. I wrote every night. Between feedings. Between breakdowns. Between healing. The blog turned into a newsletter. Then into a small community. And then, a book deal. An independent publisher focused on women's stories reached out. Your story needs to be shared, Emily. Not for shock, but for healing. I said yes. The book was titled, The Man Who Never Existed. It didn't become a bestseller. But it became something more important, a mirror. For other women. For myself. I started giving talks at small events. Workshops about emotional abuse and identity fraud. And slowly, I stopped whispering my story. I started owning it. My tiny home became a gathering place. Once a month, I'd open my living room to women like me, single moms, survivors, seekers. We'd sit with tea, blankets, and truth. We cried. We laughed. We rebuilt. And Noah. He was growing like wildflowers in spring. Every mama, every sticky hug, every sleepy smile, was proof that the life I rebuilt was real. Solid. Mine. I was no longer trying to return to who I was before. I was learning to love who I had become. Life moved on. Noah turned 2 with a backyard party full of balloons, cupcakes, and women who had become sisters through shared pain. It wasn't just a birthday. It was a resurrection. We were healing. We were laughing again. Until the past knocked at the door, quietly, but undeniably. It came in the form of a letter. No return address. My name written in a familiar hand. I didn't need to open it to know who it was from. Aaron. Emily. I don't expect forgiveness. Or understanding. But I needed to write. I left because I knew you had discovered the truth. And I wasn't ready to face it. I never meant to hurt you. I only wanted a life that felt real. And for a while, with you and Noah, I thought I had it. I'm no longer running. I turned myself in 3 weeks ago. I'm in federal custody now. You were the only real thing in a life full of lies. I folded the letter slowly. My hands didn't tremble. I didn't cry. There was no rage. Just a strange sense of finality. That night, I wrote a note to myself. He surrendered, not out of guilt, but out of exhaustion. I am not his scar. I am my own healing. A few days later, I received a knock at the door. A woman stood there, mid-50s, with tired eyes and features I instantly recognized. "Are you Emily?" she asked, clutching a worn leather purse. "Yes, can I help you?" "I'm Sarah Blake. Aaron's sister." The name hit me like a stone. We sat on the porch, Noah running barefoot across the grass. Sarah spoke gently. She said she hadn't seen Aaron in years. That she knew about the aliases. The disappearances. The damage. But she had never imagined he would try to build a real life. "He wrote to me too," she said. "Told me you were the only person who ever saw him as something more than the lie he lived in." "He wasn't Noah's father," I said calmly. "He wasn't my husband. He was a stranger pretending to belong." She nodded. "I'm not here to defend him. I'm just trying to understand who he tried to become. And to thank you, not for loving him, but for giving him a glimpse of something better." Before she left, she handed me a faded photo. Aaron, maybe 8 years old, standing beside a broken-down bicycle and a skinny dog, with a hesitant smile. Maybe one day Noah will want to know the full story. I looked at the photo. I didn't see a monster. I saw a child who was never saved. That night, I placed the photo and Aaron's letter inside a box, along with the DNA results, Noah's baby bracelet, and the hospital forms. My past wasn't clean. But it was closed. And now, I was free to build what came next. Today, I live in a small, peaceful house with wide windows and a garden that smells like lavender. Every morning, Noah runs through the grass with his arms outstretched, pretending to fly. His laughter fills the spaces that once echoed with doubt. He's almost 3 now. And every time he looks at me with those bright, trusting eyes, I'm reminded. The love I give is real. The life I built is mine. And I survived something that tried to erase me. The blog became a community. The book became a voice. And my living room became a safe space for other women, women who had also been deceived, dismissed, or broken, but never destroyed. We gather once a month. No pressure. No makeup. No need to explain. We share tea and silence. Stories and scars. And somewhere between all of that, we begin to bloom again. Sometimes, I still get messages from readers. A few are from women still living with their own errands, men who pretend, manipulate, vanish. Some are from survivors. Some are from women who haven't spoken aloud in years, until now. But the most important message I've ever received was the one I wrote to myself. You were deceived. You cried over someone who didn't exist. But that doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. You rebuilt your life out of truth. And in that truth, you found freedom. I don't know if I'll fall in love again. Maybe. Maybe not. But I do know this. I will never shrink myself again to fit inside someone else's illusion. And if you're still listening, if you've ever doubted your worth because someone made you feel small, please remember. The truth doesn't just break you. It also sets you free. If this story moved you in any way, Please leave a like. And share it with someone who may be quietly surviving a storm they don't talk about. What part of Emily's journey spoke to you the most? Leave a comment, I read them all. And if you believe in healing through truth, and in stories that empower instead of silence, subscribe to her journey and be part of this space.